Service, obviously, but if you'd like to do this area here, you're welcome to get much closer, further away from the street. I know people have chairs. Sanjay. Esarinai el heharim. The ayin yavo Esri. Esri me'im Adonai oseh shamayim ba'aretz. Al yitim lamot raglecha al yanim shomrecha. Hine lo yanum velo yishan shomer Yisrael Adonai shomrecha. Adonai tzilcha al yad yaminecha. Yomam hashemesh lo yakeka. Yareach b'layla. Adonai yishmorcha mikol ra. Yishmor et nafshecha. Adonai yishmor tzeit chavolecha me'atav yad olam. I will lift up mine eyes unto the mountains. What is the source of my help? My help comes from the Lord, maker of heaven and earth. God will not let your foot give way. Your protector will not slumber. Behold, the guardian of Israel neither slumbers nor sleeps. God is your protector. God is your protection at your right hand. The sun will not strike you by day, nor the moon by night. The Lord will keep you from all evil. He will keep your soul. The Lord will guard you going out and you coming in, this time forth and forevermore. Irene will have a our God and God of all generations. Thou governest all things with infinite wisdom and mercy, and guidest the destinies of all of humankind. It's apparent that you loved us and showered your blessings upon us. Therefore we shall not murmur even when sorrow befalls us. But with humility and unfaltering trust, we shall accept your decrees. In joy and in sorrow alike, we praise your goodness and acknowledge your justice. We remember that we are but strangers upon earth. Like a shadow, our life flees away. Help us, O God, so to walk in your sight, that when the few years of our earthly pilgrimage are ended, we may be ready to meet our end with tranquil mind. To thee we look for comfort and strength. When one of our beloved is taken from us and a link is broken in the chain of love which binds us together, though we walk in the valley of the shadow of death, we shall fear no evil. Thou art with us. Praise thou, eternal our God, in all your dispensations. Sanctified be your name now and forevermore. There is no piece of literature used more often in moments like this than the words of the 23rd Psalm. And the reason for it, I suppose, is because it says, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death. And that is a good enough reason to utilize it. But I learned a long, long time ago, when King David, who was the author of the Psalms, when he wrote the Psalm, He was trying to deliver a different message, especially to mourners. And the message he was trying to deliver to the mourners is walk through the valley, don't get stuck in the middle of it. We all know situations where people lose loved ones, and they get stuck in that loss. So I'm going to read it in Hebrew, and if you want to share with me in English after I read the Hebrew, I'll read the English. Please feel free to do so. Adonai roi lo atzor bino teshe yarbitzenu al mei menuchotin aleni nafshi shavei yanchini b'maglei tzedek leman shemo gam kelech b'geit somavet lo ira ra ki ata imadi shivtecha umishantecha hema yenachamoni ta'aroch lefanai shulchan neged sororai shanta v'shem in roshi kosi ravaya ach tov v'chesed yerdafuni kol yamei chayai v'shavti b'veit Adonai la'orech yamim. For the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He guideth me in straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. The poet has written, birth is a beginning, and death is a destination. Life itself is a journey, a going, a growing from stage to stage. From childhood to maturity and from youth to age. From innocence to awareness and from ignorance to knowing. From foolishness to discretion and then perhaps to wisdom. From weakness to strength or from strength to weakness and often back again. From health to sickness and back we pray to health again. From offense to forgiveness, from loneliness to love, from joy to gratitude, from pain to compassion, from grief to understanding, and from fear to faith. From defeat to defeat until looking backward or ahead, we see that victory lies not in some high place along the way, but in having made the journey stage by stage, a sacred pilgrimage. Birth is the beginning. And death is a destination. Life itself is a journey, sacred pilgrimage made stage by stage, from birth to death, to life that is everlasting. Beloved family, dear friends, I don't really care what brings people to a moment like this. It is always difficult. Even when people have come to the end of a lengthy illness, it's still difficult. Even when death comes somewhat suddenly, and well, it wasn't sudden for your mom, it was somewhat sudden, it's still difficult. There are no easy ways to say goodbye. There are no easy ways for you as for children to become orphaned, because that is where you are. And so this is a difficult moment. And COVID makes it even more difficult. We are not yet out of the difficulty of it. And for the last 2 years, when people have passed away, with rare exception, we have gathered in small numbers as we are today to say goodbye to someone who had many parts of this family. And there's a sadness to all of that. I think what makes this also very sad, and I want to read a beautiful poem by the Russian poet Yevtushenko. I know it's not good to talk about Russians today, but the Russian poet Yevtushenko, who wrote "No Gravestone Stands on Baba Yar." He was at Baba Yar. He wrote a very beautiful poem about Baba Yar. But he wrote this poem called Our Mothers. He wrote, our mothers depart from us, gently depart, on tiptoe. But we sleep soundly stuffed with food and fail to notice this dread hour. Our mothers do not leave us suddenly. It only seems sudden. Slowly they depart, and strangely with short steps down the stairs of the years. 1 year remembering nervously to mark their own birthdays. But this belated zeal will save neither their souls nor ours. They withdraw ever further, roused from sleep. We stretch toward them, but our hands suddenly beat the air. A wall of glass has grown up there. We were too late. The dread hour had struck. Suppressing tears, watch our mothers in columns quiet and austere depart from us. And I believe that in some very strange way, that is what this day is about. It's about thinking not just about your mother, obviously you're doing that, and your aunt, cousin, whoever. The truth is that you're here because a generation has come to an end. It's never easy when that occurs. So I think for you as a family, you have to recognize that first there are some tasks for you to perform. 4 to be exact. First is to grieve for your loss. You have to shed your tears whenever that comes. Even when it comes in the loneliness of night and you remember certain parts of her life and you shed those, that's okay. It's important to grieve for your loss. It's important to wonder about the miracle of birth, which just took place in this family not too long ago, and she at least had a great-grandchild that she saw. You have to celebrate the miracle of birth. You have to understand the mystery of death. And it is a mystery. Although we are few in numbers, we have all kinds of ways in which we think about this moment. Some people believe that this moment is not the end, that there may be something beyond this world. And others may believe that when we place someone into the ground, that is the end. It doesn't matter. We all have our belief systems. And I was taught by one of my professors, that all religion, no matter which religion, and there's thousands of them, they are all a response to the fact that we're going to die. And they're all different. And not one is any better than any other. And so you have to wonder for yourselves, what does it mean for our loved one to die? And what does it mean for us? Third task I think that you have is to remember her. To remember her strengths, and they were many. To remember her challenges, and they too were many, because we are human beings, and she was a human being as well. It's important to remember those challenges. To remember how her life intersected with your own. Remember how she tried to live in her highest moments, not her lowest moments. And we have them all. And lastly, and I share this with especially with grandchildren and great-grandchildren, the task is to emulate who she was. To teach it to the next generation. That's how we give immortality to those that are gone. So I hope that you will do that. I want to talk to you about her legacy. And the first part of that legacy is that she was a first-generation American Jew. And last night when we talked, you wanted me to understand that all of your grandparents came from Eastern Europe. I understand, mine too. But I'm second generation, just as you're second generation. My father was first generation. My mother was first generation. First generation American Jews had a major responsibility. Their parents came here. I know we always like to think they came here because they were told that the streets were paved with gold. That was not the reason. They came here to find freedom. They came here to find safety. Eastern Europe was not a place for Jews in the 19th and early 20th century. But they bequeathed to their children, to your mother, to her 9 brothers and sisters, they bequeathed to them that they had to secure that freedom for the next generation. Now, partially that had to do with resources, partially it had to do with a mindset. We didn't just come here with the Mayflower. We came here one generation before, and we had to protect that freedom that our parents, grandparents came here to find. And your mother bequeathed to you continuity. Don't forget where they came from. Don't forget who they were. Don't forget the legacy that they have enabled us to inherit. So let me talk a little bit about that legacy because it's an important one. And yes, is it a legacy that other people have as well? Of course. I grew up in Milwaukee. My father grew up on the west side, Eastern European, and my mother grew up on the east side, German. I'm a product of a real intermarriage, and if you think that that's not true, you're wrong. Western European Jews and Eastern European Jews didn't get along too well. But my mother was an east sider, my father was a west sider. Your mother was a west sider. That whole family was part of the west side. And you know, they were proud of that place. Still they're proud, and their children, grandchildren, they are also proud of the old west side in Denver. It's a wonderful, wonderful legacy. She was sweet and kind. She loved games, and she loved competition, as you told me last night, which meant that she was not about to give in on any games. She played to win. And whether that was her games or her bowling or her golf, whatever it was, she wasn't giving in to anybody else. She played to win. She had a sense of humor. Not always, but a lot of the time she had a good sense of humor. She was a person with class. She loved to dress, to wear her jewelry, and to be seen in a certain way. Sometimes people look at that and they say, oh, that person is really very, very concerned about how others will view her. I don't think so. I think it has to do with how people wanted, yes, to be seen, but how they respected others. They wanted to be seen, yes, dressed. They wanted to do that because they respected other people as well. She was independent. And I suppose each of you, in your own ways, gained some of that independence from her. Everything was on her terms, not somebody else's terms. She was involved in current life. She kept abreast of what was going on, and she loved to read. She had her Friday lunches with her friends. She was a person who loved to travel with her beloved Ron. They traveled a lot of the world and saw a lot of things. And that was important for her. But the story you told me last night, the one that sticks with me the most, it's funny, but it's also serious. She was not a person to be patient with complainers. So you told me last night about the fact that, you know, as you were growing up, there were bedrooms and 3 bathrooms for 4 or 5 of you, and you would complain about who, and she would get angry. She said, when I grew up on the west side, there were 12 of us in 1 bathroom. What are you complaining about? She understood that perspective, and it wasn't just a joke. It was important for her. She was close with her family. She was close with the family that came here, the family that was born here. She was close with you. And with her grandchildren and with her great-grandchild that she was privileged to at least see. She was also a person who understood that we have to cut slack with people when it's important to do so. She was a good cook. She was a good baker. She was a person who was present for you. She made that very clear to me last night. She was there. You understood that she would always be there for you. And so as we gather here on this day and pay this lasting tribute of love and respect to her memory, we do so fully understanding that yes, you have lost someone, but she's not lost forever. You will remember her, and you will remember those moments that you shared together. And that will give her that sense of immortality that she so richly deserves. Very often I try to end words of tribute with the following poem, and I use it often because I think it's so real. The poet wrote, "When I die, if you need to weep, cry for someone walking in the street beside you. And when you need me, put your arms around others and give them what you need to give me. You can love me most by sharing your joys, multiplying your good deeds. You can love me most by letting me live in your eyes and not in your mind. And when you say Kaddish for me, remember what our tradition teaches. Love doesn't die. People do. So when all that's left of me is love, give me away." Given her history, she would say this to all of you. Don't forget her. Give who she was away to the next generation. It is in that spirit then that we resolve to face our grief without self-pity, but with bravery and integrity. Keeping before us forever the blessings that God conferred upon us, this life that He but lent to us for these many decades. And in a world where our most precious goods are perishable, let us resolve to honor our beloved dead by being so good to the living, so kindly, so understanding, so forgiving, so transcendent of pettiness. That in our love for her, we shall hearken to those who remain and who need us in our strength. May it be through new relationships and new service to humanity that we make good our loss. And in the beauty of our own lives, erect the noblest monument to our unborn dead. Thus, the beauty of her life shall ever abide among us all as the living. God has given. God has taken away. Praise be the name of God, now and forevermore. Let us also together. In the rising of the sun and in its going down, we will remember her. In the blowing of the wind and in the chill of winter, we will remember her. In the opening of buds and in the rebirth of spring, we will remember her. In the rustling of leaves and in the beauty of autumn, we will remember her. In the blueness of the sky and in the heat of the summer, we will remember her. In the beginning of the year and when it ends, we will remember her. When we are weary and in need of strength, we will remember her. When we are lost and sick at heart, we will remember her. When we have joys we yearn to share, we will remember her. When we have decisions that are difficult to make, we will remember her. When we have achievements based on hers, we will remember her. So long as we live, she too shall live, for she now is a part of us. We will remember her. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher yatzar etchem b'tzalmo v'zan chilkel etchem b'kivod, v'emit etchem b'din v'natah b'tovchem chei olam. Baruch atah Adonai dayan ha'emet. Praise you, O Lord our God, ruler of the universe. Forms us in the divine image and nourishes and sustains us in your goodness, causing all of us to die and planting immortal life within us. Praise you, O God, the judge of truth. Tagi bor le'olam Adonai rav le'oshia, mechalkel chaim b'chesed, mechayeh kol b'rachamim rabim. Somech noflim v'rofei cholim u'matir asurim, mekayin emunato l'shenei afro. Eternal is your might, O God, all life is your gift. Great is your power to save. Love you sustain the living with great compassion. You give life to all. Send help to the fallen and healing to the sick. Bring freedom to the captive and keep faith with those who sleep with us. Praise you, O God, who implants eternal life within us. Spirit of God, we commit your soul to save. We'll know that in our tradition it's considered to be an act of love and kindness to bury the dead. In our cemetery, this cemetery, we want people to do that. We as children place some earthly graves. The dust returns to the earth as it was. The spirit returns to God who gave it. It is only the house of the spirit which we have laid within the bosom of the earth. The spirit itself cannot die. Here too our dear ones continue in the loving remembrance of those to whom they were precious. Receive in mercy, O God, the soul of our beloved Irene Freund. Grant her that everlasting peace which you have prepared for us in the world to come. Though no human eye has seen, nor ear has heard, no mind has comprehended, so it is our sure inheritance, our everlasting portion, now and forever. I would ask you now, dear family and dear friends, to please rise, that we might all, as you're able, as we are recite together the words that have been hallowed by centuries of faith, words that have been glorified in our tradition. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei rabah, v'yalmat yifrach yirutei, v'yam nichmach yutei, v'chayei chon v'yomei chon, v'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael, v'agalau v'zman kari, v'yimaru amei. Yehei shemei rabah mivolach, le'olam v'le'olmei olmaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach, Yitar, Yitamam, Yitasei, Yitadar, Yitalev, Yitalav, Shmei the Kuksha, Berichu. Elom called Birchata Vashirata, Tuspachata v'nechemata, Ramivan v'olma v'yimaru, Amen. Yehei shalom alaba min shemaya v'chayim, Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, Yimru Amen. Useh shalom v'namai, Hu ya'aseh shalom, Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael. Yeh malevachamim shetrim v'amamim. Hamatzeinu chanechanetachat tempu yashivina. In kadoshim ka'oli v'zohar harakim afirim. Of Yishmat Yakirenu Shahalakal Olamah. All halachamim. Asiyah b'seti kanatav v'olamim. Vayitzvor b'tzvor ha'chaim v'nishmatav. V'ma'ahu nechalatav v'tanuach v'shalom. Al nishkevav v'nomah. Amen. The God full of compassion and in the spirit of the universe, grant perfect rest in your sheltering presence unto Irene Freund, who is entered into eternity. The God of mercy, let her find refuge in your eternal presence, and let her soul be bound up in the bond of eternal life. Keep thou her possession, and her repose, and her peace. Family has asked us to announce that they will observe a period of mourning on Sunday between 12 and 4 at Irene's home at the Waterford Apartments on Hamden Avenue, 1900 East Lake Gerard Place. You all know where it is. Between 12 and 4, and you'll have a chance then to share your thoughts and your remembrances. That time. Departed whom we now remember has been called unto the peace of life eternal. So free of unearthly acts of goodness she has performed. In the hearts of those who will ever cherish her memory, pray that the beauty of her life will abide among us all as a living, loving benediction. May the source of peace send peace unto all you who mourn. May God comfort all the bereaved among us and those who are in all the nations and the families of earth. Let's all sit together. Irene, go your way, for God has called you. Lech Badonai, go your way, for God has called you. Walk the Panafat Siketa, go Badonai Yasketa, and your righteousness go before you. May the glory of God receive. Let's all sit together. That does conclude our service.